I forgot about this. The Iranian proxies have launched, I don't know now, we're almost at 60 different attacks, right? Drone attacks, missile attacks on a variety of U.S. Facilities and bases and personnel in Iraq and Syria. Since 17 October. What is that? So we're going on a month, right? A month, and you've had about 60 attacks. You've had almost 60 U.S. servicemen injured, some seriously. And yet, I think they made the announcement yesterday afternoon during a quiet time in the press room. But the Biden administration has agreed to extend a sanction waiver for Iran, and we're giving them $10 billion. $10 billion in what had been frozen assets owed by Iraq, right, to Iran for essentially, well, for the most part, for electricity, right, for purchasing. They get a significant amount of their energy supply from Iran. So Iraq, I think, gets almost half, or 40%, 45% of their energy supply from Iran. So you had $10 billion sitting there, frozen assets. And so in the past 24 hours, despite the Iranian proxies doing this for the past month, and before, they were, to be fair, they were launching missiles at some of our facilities in the Middle East before the conflict with Hamas. They've decided that a good idea is to release the $10 billion. And it's going to be for humanitarian aid, they say. And they won't be able to use it for anything else. That's what they tell us. The State Department's very clear on that. They're saying, no, it's just for humanitarian aid. There's no way they can use it for anything else, which is what they said about the $6 billion that they unfroze before this situation kicked off at the beginning of October. And, to that, the Iranian president said, hey, we'll use it for whatever we want to, right? And money's fungible. So if you give me $10 billion and tell me I can only spend it on beer, okay, well, I'll take $10 billion that I have over in this pot that I was going to spend on beer, and I'll spend it on ammunition, right? It's fungible. So it's a ridiculous argument. And then the State Department compounded the ridiculous discussion by saying, well, I forget who it was. It was one of their spokesmen, Miller or somebody. He said, look, they've been fomenting trouble and creating chaos and causing trouble. I know I'm paraphrasing, before this $10 billion, and they're going to keep doing it regardless of whether they get the funds. So fine, let's just give them the money.
They choose to fund destabilizing activities first, he added. They always have, as far as we can tell, they always will. So looking at this money, we see the benefit to allowing these funds to move again to restricted accounts where they can only benefit the Iranian people. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
This is just, how are these people doing this?
Yeah, they've decided that.
But why would they decide that? That's what I don't understand. What's in it for them?
The optic is awful, right? It's not as if, the American public's going to look at that and go, yeah, that makes sense. We've been reading headlines about these missile and drone strikes caused by Iranian proxies now for the past 4 weeks. So, sure, it makes sense to us that President Biden's decided that this is okay. So I don't understand. I'm confused over what they think. And the idea that they somehow imagine that this money won't be used for, purposes other than what they're expecting I think is ludicrous. But if all you said was just from the optic, even if they could control how that money is spent, politically, the optic is awful, right? And so it's a confusing thing from this administration. I don't understand it, and it's the wrong. Anyway, I mean, aside from that, it's the wrong direction. We should be going in the other direction. We should be, Iran has, they have, realized. I don't want to say a windfall, but their oil, revenues have not been degraded. We have not really gone after their energy sector in terms of sanctions. And so we should be going after that. We should be really stepping on the gas in terms of saying that's enough, right? I mean, because what have we done? We've had 3 responses to the missile and drone strikes that they've been responsible for over the past 4 weeks. 3 responses. And after every response, we just get more missile and drone attacks. So it's not deterrence. We're not doing anything to deter the behavior, right? It's almost like a political decision saying, well, we got to show the American public we're doing something and we take it seriously. So let's blow up a weapons depot in eastern Syria. And it's doing nothing to deter the attacks. So I don't think giving them $10 billion, if maybe that's their calculation, if we give them something, they'll stop. I mean, that's awful. I don't think they're that stupid. So that can't be the reason. So I don't understand. It's a confusing decision on their part.
Does anybody have any sort of rational argument for why they're doing it?
Not that I've seen, but I mean, I'm going to keep looking. Maybe there is one. It'd be nice to think, because look, you know, you should want the U.S. government to do well, you know, regardless. We got to, you know, at some point you got to say, okay, I don't care whether Democrats or Republicans. I just want them to do well because that's good for us, you know, as in the U.S., whether it's an economic issue or a national security issue. So, but I haven't seen a logical argument. It's a new development. They've just basically announced this, and. Yeah, it makes no sense. They were incredibly reluctant at the outset of this conflict to even mention Iran, right? They were and in part because they've spent 3 years now with a soft approach, right, to trying to get back into a deal of some sort with them over the nuke weapons program, and they've been taking this approach that said, well, Trump had maximum pressure, so that had to be wrong. Had to be wrong. And just like with everything else that Trump did, they just reversed it. You know, like the border controls. No, that's all bad. You know, and so we just have to throw it all out. And they kind of did that, and they brought in to their various Iran-focused, Iran-forward positions, whether at the Pentagon or the State Department, they brought in people who were like-minded, who wanted a softer approach. And that